Hey everyone, I'm Mr. Miller, and I'd like to share a little bit with you today of what I've learned and experienced of the influence that the African slaves who were brought to the United States, or the land that became the United States, has had on music in this country, and especially music of the last 125 years or so. One form of music, the older of the two, that I'll be talking to you about today is the blues. And the slightly newer version that was influenced by the blues is jazz. And I'll be talking to you about how African rhythms and African harmonic structures and melodies influenced these pretty recent, actually, forms of music. I'll start out with a little demonstration of rhythm. Now, different tones in African music are very important to be able to play and to hear. And oftentimes in African music, the drums are used almost as a second voice in addition to the human voice. And that's especially true with the drum that's known as the talking drum. And this one was made in Ghana, and it's so from West Africa. And by squeezing the drum or these strings of leather, you can actually change the sounds or the tones of the drum to imitate the human voice. More specifically, when it comes to African rhythm, aside from being able to hear these different tones and making the drums almost talk, is one specific kind of rhythm, and that's the 2 against 3 rhythm. When I say 2 against 3, I'm talking about the number of beats per measure. To contrast, in traditional European music, you would normally have 4 beats for every measure, or so groups of 4 like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. But in African music, or a lot of African music, you'll hear more of something where you have 2 beats in one hand, 3 beats in the other hand, and they don't exactly match up. And the reason that this kind of rhythm developed there was that it helped to accompany the kind of dancing that was going on at the same time that the music was being played. And so instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to do 3 in my right hand and 2 in my left hand like this. Like this. So instead of, it's this. I'll kind of speed that up a bit. And the interesting thing about these drums that I'm playing right here are that they're not from Africa, but they were also influenced by African culture on the island of Cuba. These drums, the bongos, represent the combination of African culture on the island of Cuba, also from the descendants of African slaves, and the culture of Spain, which is the European country, obviously, that colonialized that area and imported the slaves. In the music of jazz, you can especially hear some of this offbeat rhythm. And I'll give you an example. Now I'm going to play first a song, a popular song from the movie The Sound of Music, a waltz called My Favorite Things. And the waltz, a little bit different from what I just played of the European music, has a 3/4 tempo, so it goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now I'll play a version of this song that was made by the John Coltrane Quartet, one of the most famous jazz groups. In that version, you can hear some of the more offbeat rhythm, the two beats not exactly matching up with each other. Now I'm going to go to a form of music that came before jazz, the blues, but that inspired it. It's also influenced by African music, but more so in the way the chords are organized and in the way the melodies sound. I'll start out with some of the melody. Now, in music today, normally you hear two types of scale. One is the major key, and the other is the minor key. So the major sounds happy, the minor a little sad. The blues scale seems to combine both of these feelings. It sounds like this. And this kind of music is especially well suited to being able to sing about things that are not so happy, and yet at the same time to make you feel a little bit better, almost like you were able to tell somebody about your problems and now you're feeling a little bit like you can go on with life now that you've had a chance to express how you've been feeling. So most blues lyrics tend to be about things like losing all of your money, like alcohol and alcoholism, and sometimes even drugs, and especially about problems in love. And almost every blues musician, though, says that although they might have experienced those things and sung about them in their music, once they've kind of expressed it in the music, in their music of the blues, it's kind of made them feel better. You can hear also in the blues that, just like with the talking drum before, it's a really great way of being able actually to speak through music. Now, another way that the blues incorporates some African influence is in the way the music is organized. There's something called the 12-bar blues, where, just like before I said that you can get music in beats of 4, this one does the beats of 4 and does it 12 times. So you end up with a song that's organized like this. Well, I'm going to speed it up a little bit. So I'm going to go. I just now played 12 groups of 4 beats, but I played it a little bit fast. So when I take that 12-bar blues, I mix it in with that blues scale. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit first, but now I'm going to put it into a song. It's like I'm not singing. Anyway, this music now, the blues being more than 100 years old, jazz going back, or it's especially famous for right around 1900, 1920s, we saw the beginnings of it. You might think, why should I really care about this old music? I don't even hear that on the radio. This is just an Afro-Asian thing I gotta learn. But really, the truth is that if there hadn't been any blues, there wouldn't have been jazz or rock and roll. Jazz and rock and roll came from blues. And if there hadn't been jazz, there wouldn't have been later forms of music like later on funk, and then finally hip-hop, which was born in the South Bronx, which I used to live in, or teach in, excuse me. So if you hadn't had this blues, which was influenced by African music, and if you hadn't had jazz, which was influenced by African music, you wouldn't have had the music on the radio that most of you probably listen to every day. So we're very lucky to live in a country, I think, that is known around the world for its music, and especially, and you might not have known it, but the music of jazz is considered to be one of the greatest artistic expressions ever to come from the United States, and it's respected around the world. But I have a special place in my heart, as you could probably tell, about for the blues, and it's the music. It's the first music that I started playing when I was around 7 years old, and that song went something like this. And it was about Russians attacking, because back then that's what the United States was worried about, and nuclear war, and I'm sure you've learned about that or you'll be studying about that. So yeah, so if you've ever been feeling bad in school, like you know, you've been kind of teased, and you know, somebody said they were going to kind of like beat you up, maybe, and then you broke up with your maybe your girlfriend or boyfriend from that you've been going out with for 2 years, and like suddenly you find out that they emptied out your bank account because you had let them see the PIN number on your debit card, and then suddenly, you know, you have no money, and then you're kicked out of your home because you're accused of plotting the destruction of your house or something, and suddenly you're living on the sidewalk, and but the one little nice thing is they give you a piece of bread every morning, but other than that your day's just been horrible. Write it all down in your journal, you know, because it's a great way to deal with your emotions. But also, if you feel like it, you know, come on over and I'll give you some chords, and you just sing over, and you sing over that, and I'm not going to sing, and you sing, and then tell me a little bit more, and pretty soon you're going to be feeling better, because that's the way the blues works. It's about sad stuff, but the way the music sounds,